Soleimani has been perpetrating acts of terror to destabilize the Middle East for the last 20 years. What the United States did yesterday should have been done long ago. A lot of lives would have been saved. Just recently, Soleimani led the brutal repression of protesters in Iran, where more than 1,000 innocent civilians were tortured and killed by their own government. We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war. The United States has the best military by far anywhere in the world. We have the best intelligence in the world. If Americans anywhere are threatened, we have all of those targets already fully identified, and I am ready and prepared to take whatever action is necessary. And that in particular refers to Iran. Under my leadership, we have destroyed the ISIS territorial caliphate. And recently, American Special Operations Forces killed the terrorist leader known as al-Baghdadi. The world is a safer place without these monsters. America will always pursue the interests of good people, great souls, while seeking peace, harmony, and friendship with all of the nations of the world. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So this is one of those times where you listen to what Trump said and realize that the truth is the polar opposite. Not unlike all other situations involving this president. Trump took to the podium here claiming that his intent was to stop a war, not to start one. In other words, Trump ordered the second most powerful person in Iran to be assassinated because he didn't want conflict. Yeah, no, makes total sense. And not only was the public rationale completely absurd, considering you don't stop a war by killing another country's top official, but the administration's legal rationale for the attack was just as tenuous. They claim that a threat was imminent, and yet the White House is refusing to disclose what the threat was. If these excuses were any lazier, Trump would start claiming that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iran. Now, Trump and his mouthpieces in the GOP and at Fox News will inevitably hark on how dangerous Soleimani was and how much safer the world is without him. And it's true, he was responsible for the deaths of Americans overseas, for proxies that targeted American interests, but the point here is that actions have consequences. It's clearly not as simple as killing Soleimani and the carnage simply ends there. Iran has already vowed retaliation. This puts our diplomats and service members and military officers at risk. It makes our embassies overseas targets for attacks. It raises the likelihood of war. Both Bush and Obama had the opportunities to take out Soleimani, but opted not to because they determined that the ends didn't justify the means. That A, the threat Iran poses won't go away with the death of Soleimani, he'll be replaced by someone else who may very well be worse, and B, there now exists the possibility of a protracted conflict with Iran because of this. So Trump might claim that the point of this action was to make us safer, but the clear and obvious reality is that because of this, Americans are less safe. So then why would Trump actually do this? Why would the guy who explicitly campaigned against endless wars now extend one? For the same reason he does anything. He thinks it'll benefit him politically. The proof is that, of course, Trump had not only taken to Twitter on countless occasions and accused Obama of starting a war against Iran to get reelected, writing things like, "Be prepared, there's a small chance that a horrendous leadership could unknowingly lead us into World War III, and in order to get elected, Barack Obama will start a war with Iran, and I predict that President Obama will at some point attack Iran in order to save face." He actually gave interviews saying the exact same thing.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran.
And while Obama never did start a war with Iran, the fact remains that Trump exposed the inner workings of his mind. He showed his hand. That military conflict against Iran is what he views as a re-election strategy. And so now here we are, only hours into an election year, and Trump has launched an attack against Iran. I wonder why. And it wasn't just to try and bolster his re-election prospects. The other reason that Trump has been angling for war with Iran is because his predecessor, President Obama, avoided war and sought diplomatic solutions instead, like the Iran nuclear deal, which Iran was in compliance with. But because Trump's decisions are guided by his fragile ego, his only strategy was to do the opposite of what Obama did, to pull out of the Iran deal, to end diplomacy with Iran, and to engage in a maximum pressure campaign instead. Obama could have found a cure for cancer, and Trump's very first move would be to reverse it immediately. And look, like all things military, this is subjective. There are always going to be arguments to justify having taken this action and to oppose it. But what's clear here is that at a time when Americans don't want war, under a president who campaigned against endless wars, Trump took action that will inevitably embroil us in one. In our government, we have a president with no coherent strategy, emboldened by Republicans in Congress, too cowardly to recognize the separation of powers afforded to them by the Constitution. And so while there might be momentary satisfaction in killing Soleimani, it'll be far, far overshadowed by the consequences that will inevitably follow.